This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
So we're going to try to explore what is this idea that Menashe and Ephraim are also counted among the Shevatim. What do you mean they're also counted? Were they the children of Yaakov Avinu? No. So what's Yaakov? Yaakov had many, many grandchildren, right? He had 50 grandchildren. So he says, you two, you guys over here, Menashe, Ephraim, come here. I'm making you like my children. Well, what's that all about? What? Keruven and Shimon. Whoa, what's that? It's up to Yaakov to decide who the Shiftei Kar? The Shiftei Kar are not just, Yaakov's children. These are the pillars of the universe. So Yaakov Avinu is going to decide, you two guys, I like, you have cute outfits. I like what you're wearing today. You're going to be the Shiftei Kar? I mean, how does Yaakov Avinu know that they should be Shiftei Kar? We spoke about this once on a Friday, that Yosef had the status of one of the Avos, so therefore, okay, we're going to explore another understanding of this. What's the union of Menashe and Ephraim? And we come to the incident where Yaakov Avinu is going to give a bracha to Menashe and Ephraim b'soif yama. The pasuk says, Parshas Vayigash, Vayishlach Yisrael es yaminai. Yaakov Avinu, he sticks out his right arm, Vayashes al rosh Ephraim. He puts it on the head of Ephraim. V'hu hatzoyer. Ephraim was the younger one. V'yas he takes his left hand, al rosh Menashe, on the head of Menashe. Who's the oldest? Menashe. So Menashe is standing to the right of Yaakov Avinu. Ephraim is standing to the left. Yaakov takes his right arm, he puts it onto the younger one, Ephraim, and his left arm on the head of Menashe. Sikel es yadav. What does it mean, sikel? Simple meaning is he switched his arms. Why? Ki Menashe ha-bechar, because Menashe was the bechar. And even though we read this pasuk every year, if you look at the pasuk, there's a major problem with this pasuk. Sikel es yadav, he switched his hands. Ki Menashe ha-bechar, because Menashe was, not because Menashe was bechar, even though Menashe was bechar. The reason he switched his hand is not because Menashe was bechar, is despite the fact that Menashe was bechar. The word the Torah uses is the exact opposite word that it should have used. It should have said, Sikel es yadav af al pi, or af ki Menashe ha-bechar, not ki Menashe ha-bechar. He didn't switch his hand because Menashe was bechar, he switched his hands despite the fact that Menashe was bechar. Okay? That is a big problem. And the Shlach HaKadosh says, all the Mefarshim ask this question. V'hinei b'tevas ki nidchaku ha-mefarshim. This word ki, all the Mefarshim go to town. They can't understand, why does the Torah say he switches his hand because Menashe was bechar? It's not because, it's despite. What does Rabbeinu B'chai say? Rabbeinu B'chai says that the word ki could sometimes mean even though. Right? Like we say in Shemona Esrei, Slach lanu avinu ki chatan, machanu makenu ki fashan. Forgive me because I sinned? Oh Hashem, because I sinned against you, now you should forgive me. No, that's because I sinned. Even though I sinned against you, even though I rebelled against you, you should still forgive me. So we find the word ki could mean even though. So the Rabbeinu B'chai says in this pasuk, the word ki means even though. Rabbeinu B'chai pirish al derech Refa nafshi ki chatasilach. Rabbeinu B'chai says the word ki over here means, in the same way, it means in the pasuk Refa nafshi ki chatasilach. Forgive me, heal my nefesh, even though I sinned. Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu. There ki doesn't mean because, it means even though. The perusham shal ki elu hu afapi. Okay, so that's one explanation of the pasuk. When the pasuk says sikel es yadav ki Menashe ha-bechar, the word ki doesn't mean because, it means even though. Says the Shla, I feel the pasuk means something else. And that is like this. Who's the bechar? Menashe is the bechar, Ephraim is the younger one. So what does Yaakov Avinu want to do? Who does he want to give the primary bracha to? Ephraim. So if I were Yaakov Avinu, what would I do? I'd say, Ephraim, yeah, you go on my right side. Menashe, you go on the left side. I'll give Ephraim the bracha with my right hand on the right side, and Menashe on the left side with my left hand. Why did Yaakov Avinu keep Menashe on the right side, keep Ephraim on the left side, and then switch his hands? You want to give Ephraim kavod? Give him the seat of honor. What are you keeping him on the left side? But you're giving him the right hand. But why do you keep him on the left side?
But Yosef brought them in that order.
But what, right? And Yosef wanted to switch. Yosef wanted to switch his hands. Yaakov says, leave it. So if Yaakov knew what he was doing, he should have taken Ephraim and switched the location, not just the hand. Says the Shla, you know what the Torah means? Sik eles yadav. Why did Yaakov Avinu switch his hands and not switch the location of Ephraim and Menashe? That's because Ki Menashe ha-bachar. Menashe was a bachar. So at least give Menashe the cover of sitting on the right side. Meaning, why was Yaakov Sik eles yadav? He should have switched them. The answer is Menashe was the bachar. At least we'll give him the place of prominence.
Why is one of these times
He saw that Gedolei Yisrael were going to come out of Ephraim, and he wanted to give Ephraim the greater bracha. But why did he switch his hands? In other words, not he switched his hands because Menashe was bachar. He switched his hands as opposed to switching them because Menashe was a bachar. The word, let's see the shla inside on the fourth line. Avali nira lefarish kapshutai. Says the shla, I'm going to explain this pasuk simply. V'zen like this. Ki Yaakov ratza lases yeser se'ez kavod Ephraim al Menashe. Yaakov Avinu wanted to give more honor to Ephraim over Menashe. Mikal makom chala kavod gam kein leMenashe. He also wanted to give kavod to Menashe me'achar shu ha'bachar, because Menashe was the bachar. Says the shla, we always thought the word sikel meant to switch. No. The word sikel has nothing to do with switch. We translate that because we don't know what the word means. The word sichel, it comes from his skill. He acted wisely. What is the Targum Taj sikel? Achkimun, chachma. The word sikel means sikel es yadav. He did wisely with his hands. Seichel, exactly. Seichel. Mikomokum chala kavod gam kein leMenashe me'achar shabachar al kein hichkim Yaakov lasis gedula l'shneim. Yaakov figured, how could I do good? How could I give them both greatness? So what did he do? I'll give Ephraim the right hand. I'll give Menashe the right side. I'll make everyone happy. Af shehirba Ephraim, even though he gave more gedula to Ephraim. Ma'asa, what did he do? Sik eles yadav. He switched his hand. Asa chachma gedola b'yadav. He acted very wisely with his hands. V'hiniach es Menashe b'yamin. He put Menashe on the right side. V'yas Ephraim b'smoil. Raksha pasha yadav Glatstein. He put his hands diagonally. Hayamin arosh Ephraim, the right hand on Ephraim's head. V'hasmal arosh Menashe. So you'll ask, if he really wanted to give Ephraim so much covered, take Ephraim, put him on the right side? No. Sik eles yadav ki Menashe habachar. Okay? He didn't command to put Ephraim on the right side, Menashe on the left side. Ki Menashe habachar. Koloimar. Me'achar shehu habachar. Since Menashe was bachar, lo ratza kulei lazalza b'chvayda. He didn't want to put Menashe down. He didn't want to reject him completely. Imagine if he would have taken Menashe and said, you go on the left side and you get the left hand. Menashe would have, walked out dejected. He never would have spoken to his father again. So at least Menashe gets something. At least he gets the right side.
What about if Yaakov Avinu was a lefty? He does everything with his left. So this is his koach of the hand. Like a person put tefillin on his etel.
You mean so Menashe got everything?
All his power is on his left, not on his right.
I hear. I don't know. We don't find that Yaakov Avinu was a lefty. Also, it's mash in the Torah not, because the Torah is saying
that Kohen Gadol is, if his lefty is pasul lekuna.
Yaakov Avinu.
ככה כתוב, שאם כהן גדול is a eater, is pasul lekuna.
There's a medrash that Yaakov Avinu was a Kohen Gadol also. So
yeah?
There's such a medrash, yeah. When he did the avodah,
so he wasn't a lefty.
He wasn't a. I guess not.
Yeah.
My question is, if they both got the same bracha.
No, they didn't both get the same bracha.
You said Yivarach Hashem Ephraim Nashe.
Oh, but
they both got the same
Ephraim got more,
What does it mean? What, the right hand is more of an opening than the left hand?
There's more kaya. There's more.
It's the same person, the same bracha.
Yimin Hashem
What does it
Omecha.
make the right or left hand?
It's a bigger tzinar. It was a more powerful tzinar. He got a little more.
Did Yaakov put his hands on any the other?
On the other, I don't know. We don't find that. No.
Is there a relationship between this
And giving children brachas?
and with Esav and the Torah?
I don't know. Not that I know of.
That's where Ephraim was. Joseph had a different role. He was more the tzaddik, more involved with society. That's what really was Menashe's role.
Menashe was the Matorgaman, right? Between.
It was more a role, a Yosef's role in his tzaddik, whereas Ephraim's school of Torah. I heard that was one concept that he put his hand over Ephraim. That Ephraim is more Yaakov's lifestyle and maybe school of Torah.
Okay. Also, he saw different Ephraim, Yeshua ben Nun, right? Yeshua, right? Okay, right. You're right. Correct.
The other question is, when you come today, when you bless your kids, when you come from shul, you put both hands. Some put only the right hand. If that's the hand that gives out more of the bracha.
Oh, both is better.
Some people, the grow is makbid not to use both hands.
Because Kohanim put two.
We usually put both hands.
No.
Some
Kohanim.
Some people are makbid only to use one hand because only Kohanim should give that bracha. I believe. Okay, so this is so far Rabbi said, yeah.
I know that the Gon says that. As I said, when the Korbanos, the Yisrael did it, you had to put both his hands with all the koyach you had to put on it as well.
That's on the cow. That's the Indian of the gra is that if you're saying Yivarecha Hashem Yishmerecha and you're giving berachas Kayanim, so maybe there's a shal about Tosef to use both hands in the same way the Kayanim do it. But I think Rabbi Yaakov Emden, I think there's a machlokes about that.
So which hand is better, the right hand or the left?
The right hand.
Yemin Hashem and
You ever noticed tzaddikim when they clap around like this? I heard them.
I hear. Okay. So, Rabbi, so far we have two pshatim in the words Sik elas yadav ki menashe habachar. The first pshat is the word ki means afalpi. In other words, he switched his hands even though Menashe was a bachar. Right? That's the first pshat. Yeah. That's Rabbeinu Bechai. The Shlah himself says ki menashe habachar. He switched his hands, but he didn't switch them because at least let's give Menashe the primary position. The Malbim has a great chap. The Malbim says like this. Okay, Yaakov Avinu switches his hands, and he wants to give Ephraim the right hand. But, if you want to give Ephraim the right hand, what about, which hand is on top of what? You would think that the more important hand should be on Lamala. So what should Yaakov do? Let him take his left hand, put it on Menashe. Then take his right hand and put it on top, and put it on Ephraim, because if you want to give Ephraim the chashivas of the right hand, so put the left hand out first, and then put the right hand on. Why did Yaakov Avinu take the right hand, put it on Ephraim, then put the left hand on top and give it to Menashe? Ki Menashe habachar. Ki means because. Why did Yaakov Avinu, of course he wants to give Ephraim the right hand, but why did he put the left hand on top? Why did he give Menashe the higher hand? That's because Ki Menashe habachar. That's what the Malbim says. Okay. Look at number 7.
Why he wants to give it to Ephraim? Why?
Why does he want to give it to Ephraim?
Why?
He saw Gedolim were going to come.
Ephraim, it's
Yoshua ben Nun. Yoshua ben Nun. Right? Let's see the Malbim. Look at number 7. Vayishlach Yisrael es yaminoi, ratzaloimer kinei bebirchas kayanim ksev vayisa es yadav. It says by birchas kayanim vayisa es yadav. He lifted up his hands. V'haksiv yadai, it says his hand. The Zayar says the tzarch la'arama yeminoi al smailai. When the Kohanim duchin, you have to put the right hand higher. No. So if that's the case, when Yaakov Avinu was giving the bracha to Ephraim and Menashe, he should have put what? He should put the right hand on top of the left hand. If Yaakov is going to put one hand on top of each other, he first should have put the left hand on Menashe's head. He didn't do this. First he stuck at his right hand, then he put the left hand on Menashe. Why was the left hand on top of the right hand? Says the Malbim, he acted with great chachma through his hands. To show, Menashe, I'm not forgetting about you. I know you're the Bechar, you're the older one, we have to respect you, and you can get the higher hand. I have to give Ephraim a better bracha. But the covet, you still get the covet of the higher hand. Right? Laharish Yedei Shemenashe b'char b'alkein hagam sheyesh lo tam levarech es habechar b'yad small v'satzar b'yamin. It's true, I have a good reason why I have to give the younger one the bracha with the right hand. B'chol zeh heirim yad small lemala lahayros shemenashe hu habechar. Chach, he gave him the higher hand. At least he gave him the higher hand. Okay. Now, if you have a Chumash, I'll borrow this for 1 second. Yeah. Right? It says, Yesimcha Elokim Ke'Ephraim V'Chemenashe. The pasuk says, pasuk Chaf. Vayivarchem Ayim Huleimar B'cha Yivarch Yisrael Leimer Yesimcha Elokim Ke'Ephraim Menashe. Vayosem Es Ephraim L'fnei Menashe. He put Ephraim before Menashe, and we always thought that meant. Right? He didn't say Yesimcha Elokim Ke'Menashe V'Che'Ephraim. Yesimcha Elokim Ke'Ephraim V'Che'Menashe. So Rabbeinu Bechaya says the word Lefnei doesn't mean he put Ephraim first, as if he's the greater one. Lefnei means just the opposite, right? Like you have a pasuk. Rabbeinu Bechaya says, the pasuk says Vayiplu Lefanav Arza. He fell before him to the ground. Right? What does that mean? Lefanav Arza. That means it's a sign of subjugation. It's a sign of obedience. A sign of humility. By Yosem es Ephraim lefnei Menashe, Yaakov says, Ephraim, even though you're getting the bigger bracha, you need to be lefnei Menashe. You're like Meshubah to Menashe. Because Derech Eretz dictates, even if you're greater in Torah, even if you're going to have greater descendants, you still have to honor your older brother. Right, yeah. So that's how Rabbeinu Bechaya learns the pasuk. Look at number 8. By Yosem es Ephraim lefnei Menashe. The simple meaning, the way Rashi learns, is that Ephraim always comes before Menashe. Even though Ephraim was younger, also came. He did it. He saw his greatness was greater than the malas habachar of Menashe. Says Rabbeinu Bechaya, v'yitachin lefaresh lefnei Menashe lefun of mamish, before him. It doesn't mean that Ephraim was greater, that he comes first. It was the greatness of Menashe because he's older. What was Yaakov Avinu doing? Yaakov was teaching Ephraim Musar, Derech Eretz, that you could be greater, but you have to honor your older brother. You're still lefanav. You're still meshubah to him. Okay. Rabbi said, now fasten your seatbelts. We're about to see something very interesting. Okay? Ephraim and Menashe. Well, what's the Inyan? That Kerubein v'Shimon? What's that all about? Parshas Vayishlach, Hashem tells Yaakov Avinu, he says, pray ureveh. Right? Be fruitful, multiply. He already had 12 kids, That's a lot of kids. He did his job. What do you mean, pray ureveh? So Rashi says, pray ureveh. Binyamin wasn't born yet. So you still have to have more. So Rashi says, what do you mean Binyamin wasn't, but he was conceived at this point, right? At this point they were about to face Esav. Binyamin was in utero, as they say, right? He was in the stomach. He was in the uterus of Rachel. Yeah, but Rashi says he wasn't born yet. So Hashem says, pray ureveh, you're going to have another child. It's a little bit doichek, right? What do you mean pray ureveh? Yaakov did what he needed to do. Now he's born. As far as Yaakov's concerned, Binyamin is already ba'olamai. He's just not born yet. Rashi says, nevertheless, pray ureveh al shem sha'adayin lo noilad Binyamin. Binyamin wasn't born. V'afa pi shekvar nisabra mimenu, even though he was already conceived. And then Hashem says, Goy ukahal goyim yem mimeka. You're going to have a nation and kahal goyim. What are these? What does this mean? Goy? Rashi says Binyamin. Goyim Menashe ve'Ephraim she'asidim latzes miYosef. This word goyim that you're eventually going to have goyim refers to Ephraim and Menashe. Says the Malbim an amazing thing. Listen to this. Malbim says, at the end of Vayishlach, we know after Rachel Imenu passed away, what happened? So it says Ruvain went, Yaakov set up shop in whose tent? Leah. Yaakov set up in Leah's tent. And Reuven was very upset about that. Right?
In Bilhah's tent, you mean? He set up in Bilah. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yaakov set up in, Bilhah's tent, right? Yaakov went into the tent of Bilah. Bilah was the shivcha of Rachel. So after Rachel passed away, Yaakov sets up in Bilhah's tent. So Yehuda is very upset about it. Why? Because what, my mother should be second fiddle to this shivcha? Thank you. I didn't sleep last night. Reuven was upset, so Reuven took Yaakov's bed from Bilhah's tent and he put it into Leah's tent. And the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, Reuven chata, eino elataya. He made because the way the Torah says it, the Torah doesn't just say that Reuven took the bed and he was mavalbel it. The Torah says Reuven lived with Bilah. Vayishkav Reuven in Bilah Pilagish Aviv. And we know that didn't happen. Kol ha'omer Reuven ta eino elachayte. And kol ha'omer chata eino elataya, says the Pasuk, Vayu b'nei Yaakov shneim asar, that the b'nei Yaakov were 12. They were shalem. None of them had any chatam. None of them sinned. Says the Malbim, listen to this. The night that Yaakov Avinu was going to be in Bilhah's tent, that night, Yaakov Avinu knew, pray Reveh. He was supposed to have 2 more children. Not like Rashi says. Rashi says the children, pray is going on Binyamin. Yeah. Binyamin's already in the world. Binyamin's already conceived. Yaakov knew, pray Reveh, he has to have more children. So he put his tent in Bilah. And he was going to have 2 more children. Who were they going to be? Ephraim and Manasseh. And Yaakov Avinu was going to have 14 Shevatim, 14 children. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisrael, Dan, Gad, Yosef, Binyamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh. That's what the Nevuah was going to be, pray Reveh. God told Yaakov, have 2 more children. The 2 more children were going to be Ephraim and Manasseh. But Reuven interfered. Reuven took the bed out of Bilhah's tent. He put into Leah's tent. Because of Reuven, what happened? Ephraim and Manasseh were prevented from coming into the world as the Bnei Yaakov. So Yaakov Avinu says to Yosef, now that I see that you have Ephraim and Manasseh, how does Yaakov tell this to Yosef that Ephraim and Manasseh Reuven b'Shimon Yuli? He says, Hashem told me, Hineni mafrecha v'herbisicha. Hashem told me, pray Reveh. That didn't come true. But now I see you have Ephraim and Manasseh. So now I am going to make your children, Ephraim and Manasseh, like mine, because they were supposed to be mine. And because Reuven interfered, and Reuven prevented Ephraim and Manasseh from coming into the world, I take the Bechar away from Reuven, his double portion is taken away from him, and it's given to Ephraim and Manasseh. Why is it taken away from Reuven? Because Reuven was the one who prevented Ephraim and Manasseh from coming into the world as the Bnei Yaakov, and therefore it's being given to Ephraim and Manasseh. Says the Malbim, that's why the Pasuk says, Vayihi b'shkoin Yisrael ba'aretz hahi vayelech Reuven, vayishkav es Bilah, vayishma Yisrael. What was the result? Vayiyu b'nei Yaakov shnei masar. Now they're only 12. What do you mean now they're only 12? How many are there supposed to be? There should have been 14. Meaning as a direct result of what Reuven did, now they're only 12. That's the Hemshech HaPsukim. It says, Vayihi b'shkoin Yisrael b'aretz hahi. Reuven went, vayishkav es Bilah. Now vayishkav es Bilah, and he interfered with what Yaakov was supposed to accomplish. Vayiyu b'nei Yaakov shnei masar. Now they're only 12. But really, there should have been 14. That's how the Malbim learns this. Let's take a look at number 11.
Where does he want to take all this?
Arizal. He quotes Arizal over here. Look what he says. What? But only kir. It's kir. Kir.
It's not there.
Kir is, if your wife's name is Razy, if you put a kir, it changes everything, So the kir is a big the kir could change everything. Okay. Vayisa Yisrael. Vayihi b'shkoin Yisrael vayelech Reuven vayishkav. Says the Malbim. Das Chazal. Chazal teaches shekol ha'omer Reuven chata eino elataya. Anyone who says Reuven sinned is making a big mistake. What did he do? Raksha bilbel yitzui aviv. He mixed up the arrangement. There's an interruption in the middle of the pasuk. It would seem okay, you ready to read this? This is where it gets juicy. The Mekubalim explains Shemenashe ve'Ephraim hayu ru'uyim latzeis miyakov balayla hahu shebilbel yitzulei aviv. That night, I guess so, yeah. That night, that Yaakov put his mita in the oyel bilah, Menashe and Ephraim would have been born. Because of what Reuven did, they weren't born. Question is, just because Reuven mixed into the arrangement,
exactly Reuven? What did he do?
He took the bed out of Bilhah's tent and he put it into Leah's tent. So he interfered with Yaakov being with Bilhah on that night. So because of that, Ephraim and Menashe were not born.
Because of the bed.
Because Reuven took the bed out of his tent. Ephraim and Menashe were not born. So in that way, Chazal view it as if Reuven was Shachav in Bilhah. Why? He prevented the children that Bilhah should have had.
Who said Bilhah would have had twins?
Arizal, he knew. Chumash Kasav Arizal over Sefer Kanfayenu. What? No, I mean, if they were going to come both out of that night, so then maybe not.
Hey, they have to be 14, so what's mean if they come from Bilhah or from Leah?
That's the way it was going to be, either her or Mitzad Rachel. Mitzad, it wasn't going to come from Leah. Right, either Bilhah or Rachel.
Leah had a full complement already.
Bilhah.
Because Leah had her whole complement already. She had half the shloshim.
It was going to come Mitzad Rachel. Oh, so look what he says. Chumash Kasav Harizal v'Sefer Kanfayenu. Ubir hadvarim. The beer is like this. The fact that Yaakov considered Menashe and Ephraim his children, it is clear that they could have come from Yaakov. If Yaakov considers of all of his grandchildren, Ephraim and Menashe are his children, that means they were right to come from him. Why? Because when Hashem tells Yaakov, pray to Reveh, so Yaakov said, what do you mean pray to Reveh? I don't agree to Rashi that pray is going on Binyamin because Binyamin is already conceived. Hashem said he's going to have more children. Yaakov thought that Rachel will have another 2 children. So as soon as Yaakov saw Rachel died, how is Hashem going to bring about this nevuah that Rachel will have more children? So we have to go through Bilhah. Right? Not to Ahalan B'Oyel Bilhah, Shivchas Rachel. He moved his tent into Bilhah's tent. Sheyachshav haben Oshma. The Reuven Sheyadam and Nevuah Zais. Reuven also knew about this nevuah of prayer Reveh. He knew Yaakov would have more children. V'ratza shahabanim hamuvtachim yodu mileah imay. He wanted the children to come from his mother Leah. So what did he do? Bilbel Yitzuay Shahaya Ba'ayah Bilhah Kedei Sheyasima Ba'ayah Leah. He took the bed out of Bilhah's tent, he put into Leah's tent. Bezois Hela HaKasav Kilo Shachav Es Pilegesh Aviv. The Torah considers this as if he was Shachav with his father's Pilegesh. Ki Zilza B'chvayda. He degraded the honor of Bilhah Uv'chvayd Aviv. V'garam Shala Yulad Hazera Shahaya Mucham Latzis Menu. He caused Ephraim and Menashe not to be born from Bilhah. Sha'af Sha'asa Zois L'chvayd Imay. Even though he did this for his mother's honor, he was being chutzpahdik to his father and his father's wife.
I have a question now.
Yeah.
Did Yaakov Avinu learn from a lesson that when you favor a son, the rest of the brothers are going to hate him? He did from the Ktonet Pasim, they hated him. He's going over here and blessing his 2 grandchildren more. He's got another grandchildren to why is he taking sides again? Where's didn't he learn before already? There's jealousy among the brothers?
That's what we're learning. It was Benevuah. because since Hashem told him,
From the brothers.
they do. They know.
They bring Ephraim and Menashe more
They
than
know.
anybody
They knew.
else.
Reuven knew the nevuah, pray Reveh. Everybody knew Yaakov was going to have 2 more children, and Reuven interfered. So now when Ephraim and Menashe are born, they are the missing 2 Shevatim. The same way none of the grandchildren were insulted. Why is Yaakov giving a bracha to Asher and Zebulun and Gad? They're his children. So Ephraim and Menashe, because Yaakov Avinu had this nevuah of pray Reveh, it had to be going on somebody, and it was going on Ephraim and Menashe.
And they knew it.
Here the Malbim is saying Reuven knew. Here the Malbim is saying Reuven knew that Yaakov would have more children. Yaakov knew he would have more children. Well,
the question is that grandchildren know. Were they aware of it? That there's a nevuah that Ephraim and Menashe should have been born to Rachel.
I hear it.
You're producing again jealousy over here. The whole thing's going to start rolling again.
Okay.
Why don't you put the bed right back inside after Reuven took it out?
Why didn't Yaakov move it back?
Yeah, what was the problem? I mean, if that was destined to be, why didn't he just take the action himself?
Why the bill is choosing?
It's like, you're a gabbai, you call someone, you're supposed to call someone up for an aliyah. You call up the wrong guy. Once he comes up, you don't send him down. What's Yaakov going to do? Once the bed is here, so it's bizayon to
Move back again.
Okay. Rabbi said,
It'd be like a hotel. You could have several beds.
Look how the Malbim reads the pasuk. V'zeh shekasav sha'achar shemeisa Rachel. This is what the pasuk means. After Rachel died, Nasa Yaakov Misham, Yaakov moved away from the area he was living. Vayeta haloi mehala lemigdal eder. Ratzaloymar, that means Shesham nata ahaloi samach la'ayal bila. He wanted to move his tent into Bilas. Kedei sheyikra haben hanod al shem Rachel. So that the children should be called by Rachel. Vayehi b'shkoin yisrael b'aretz hahi. And it was when Yaakov was living in that land, Eisha shachen aloifen zeh ahaloi samach la'ayal bila. When at the time that he pitched his tent near Bilah's tent, halach Ruvain ba'es asher shachav es Bilah pilagesh. Ruvain went. Umi shachav. Who did he do this to? Aviv. Dahainu ba'es shachav aviv es Bilah pilagesh. Halach Ruvain shamu Bilah yitzuay. V'haya ta'anasai shebilah hi pilagesh. V'ra yoser sheyata alay ba'ayal ima sheyish alay pilagesh. Okay, now look what it says. Because of what Reuven did, the 2 children that were supposed to have been born from Yaakov were not born. Vayishma Yisrael. Yaakov understood. Yaakov shama v'heven masher garam bazeh. You know what Yaakov understood happened? Yaakov understood, look what happened. There are only going to be 12 Shevatim now. Because that's the Hemshech HaPsukim. That's what it means. Because Vayishkav Espila Pilegesh Aviv Vayishma Yisrael, that Yaakov heard and understood. What did he understand? Vayu b'nei Yaakov Shnei. He understood there are only going to be 12. Shalula Shabbat Yitzuay.
What does it mean? Shekol HaOmer Ruvain
Chata Inu Alataya.
Inu Alataya. Raksha Bilbo Yitzuay.
He didn't ask.
That's not...
When we say chata, Chas v'shalom, Ruvain did not live with his father's wife. He didn't live with his father's wife. That's what the pasuk says. Vayishkav espila. It doesn't mean that. It means he did something inappropriate. He didn't sin. He did something that maybe was a small lack of darachatz.
This is about Hamayim. But Reuven actually was the prayer.
Yeah.
Because of this.
Yeah.
And who got it now?
Exactly. Yosef. That's exactly.
That's how it worked out.
It's exactly. That's what Malbim says. Malbim's going to say that. Right? There's supposed to be 14. Who caused there not to be 14? Reuven. So why all the Shvatim now are going to, if we're going to make 14 Shvatim and then we can create a Menashe and Ephraim, then all the other Shvatim have to lose out. Why should they lose out? It was Reuven's fault. So we'll say they're not going to lose out. Let Reuven lose out. That's what you're saying, right? Very good. Look what the Malbim spells this out.
How's the Choshen going to look with 14?
Yeah, more.
It's going to look lopsided.
Could figure out. We'll call the graphic designer. We'll get a maybe circular. I don't know. So it says Shalulei shabilbo yisoy haya arba asar kfi avtachas Hashem. Uvezen novin. Now we understand. Lama not laha b'chayra mimenu v'nasan liYosef. Now we understand why the b'chayra was taken away from Reuven and was given to Yosef. Avor zeh. Kamasha kasav b'divrei hayamim. It says in divrei hayamim uvechila lo yitzuei aviv, when he defiled the couch of his father nasna b'chayras l'bnei Yosef. The b'chayra was given to the bnei Yosef. V'loy lehisyaches l'b'chayra. Not that Yosef should have the halachic status of the Bechar, but rather, Shlohai is that derech oynesh. It wasn't a punishment, but it was the natural consequence. Rak she'achar shegaram shelo yuldu Menashe v'Ephraim Yaakov, because Reuven caused that Menashe and Ephraim should not be born from Yaakov, haya muchrach lahachzik Menashe v'Ephraim kibanav. Yaakov had to consider now, because Menashe and Ephraim could not actually be born from Yaakov, Yaakov had to consider Menashe and Ephraim his children. So now, says the Malbim, if you look in your Chumashim, in Parak Memches, Pasuk Daled, as an introduction, that Yaakov Avinu tells Yosef that I'm going to bless your two children, that Ephraim and Menashe, Keruven v'Shimon Yuli. By the way, Baal Turim points out, the gematria of Ephraim and Menashe is the same as Reuven v'Shimon. The numerical value of Ephraim and Menashe is the same as Reuven v'Shimon.
Wow.
But as an introduction, Yaakov Avinu says, let me tell you something, Yosef. Together, Ephraim and Menashe is equal to Reuven v'Shimon.
Together, not individually.
Correct.
So basically they come from both sides, from Rachel and from Leah too, because Dinah was from Osnat, is the daughter of Dinah. And Dinah comes from Leah. So it's also from Leah and also.
Oh, you mean because if Yosef Taka, according to the opinion that Yosef married Osnat.
Osnat. So it's the daughter of Dinah. Dinah is the daughter.
Yeah, right, good. So as an introduction to what Yaakov says, Ephraim, Menashe, Reuven, Shimon, Yili, what does Yaakov tell Yosef? He says, let me tell you something. Hashem told me, Hineni mafrecha v'herbisicha. Hashem told me, pray urevei. Why is Yaakov telling Yosef that Hashem told him, pray urevei? Because Yaakov is explaining to Yosef, why am I making your two children like my children? The answer is, because Hashem told me, pray urevei, that I have to have more children. And Reuven interfered with that, and he made it that I couldn't have more children. So now I have to make two of my grandchildren my children. And who is that going to be? I have picked Ephraim and Menashe. But that's why Yaakov tells Yosef about this prayer urevei. Why would Yaakov tell Yosef that Hashem told me to have more children? Says him out, look at number 14. This is referring to that which Hashem tells Yaakov, pray urevei. Pray. When Hashem told me, pray, Hashem told me to have more children. Fine. So grandchildren I had. That was Yotzei Zayin. I had grandchildren. But I didn't have children. I never fulfilled that which Hashem told me to have children. I didn't have any more. Don't say like Rashi says, Binyamin, he was born the next day. And therefore, says the Malbim, Bi'ata. So now, Yaakov tells Yosef, now, if Hashem told me to have children, and I didn't fulfill it because I didn't have more children, So that's the development of Menashe and Ephraim. Menashe and Ephraim were really delayed in coming. In other words, really like the Shimusha Rabbah says, there should have been 14 Shevatim. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Ephraim and Menashe. So Reuven interfered. He just delayed them coming out into the world one generation. But they came out later. But in the eyes of Yaakov, in the eyes of Hashem, they had the status of the Shevatim themselves. We'll end with one interesting thing. The Gemara says, and the Ramban really points out something, that wherever you look throughout Chumash, whether it's in Parshas Vayichi, or in Parshas V'zayis HaBracha, or by the Degalim, there are always 12 Shevatim. There are always 12. In Parshas Vayichi, Yaakov Avinu does not give a separate bracha to Ephraim and Menashe, right? It's Yosef, right? He gives Yosef. That's why Menashe and Ephraim, they're not given a special bracha among the Bnei Yaakov. They're given before. And that's why Levi is given a bracha in Parshas Vayichi. Because if you're going to count Yosef as one, so we'll stick in Levi. Other times in Chumash, Levi is not mentioned. Why? Because we mention Menashe and Ephraim. In Parshas V'zos HaBracha, we mention Menashe and Ephraim. We mention Levi. We take out Shimon. The Ramban has a whole calculation how in every Parsha, whenever we're going through the Shevatim, it's always 12. The number is always 12. Someone's going to be added, someone's going to be taken away, but the number 12 remains the same. We'll just end with this. The Gemara in Baba Basra says, Daf Kuf Chaf Beis, Amar Mar, number 17. Asida Eretz Yisrael Shetischalek L'Shloisha Asar Shvatim. Eventually, when Mashiach comes, Eretz Yisrael is going to be divided into 13 portions, not 12. So the Gemara says, who's going to get the 13th portion? Idach Laman, Amar Rav Chisda L'Nasi. The Nasi is going to get the 13th portion. So now it's only divided among 12. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be divided among 13. So Tosfos asks, what do you mean when Mashiach comes, it's going to be divided into 13? Right now, it's divided into 13. Because we know the pasuk in Yechezkel says when Mashiach comes, Levi is going to have a share. So if Levi is going to have a share, and we know Menashe and Ephraim have a share, so that's 13.
Where's the Reuben and Chasishah of Menashe?
No, if you whatever, wherever they are, but that's the Gemara.
In Eretz Yisrael or outside still?
It's all going to be Eretz Yisrael. It's all going to be Eretz Yisrael. But the Gemara says when Mashiach comes, it'll be 13. So what are you talking about when Mashiach comes? Right now, it's 13.
How is it 13? I'm sorry.
Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Menashe, and Ephraim. Right? Yosef we'll break Yosef into two. And we know, so you say, but Levi didn't have a share in Eretz Yisrael. Right? No, when Mashiach comes, the pasuk says in Yechezkel, Levi will have a share. So Tosfos asks, why is the Gemara saying the 13th will go to the Nasi? The 13th will go to the 13 Shvatim. Says Tosfos, Afa Gav D'chsiv Shar Levi Echad, even though Levi will have a share, so he's number 13. But when Mashiach comes, Menashe and Ephraim will revert back to being one Shevet. Says Tosfos, Haksiv Nami Shar Yosef Echad. Because when Mashiach comes, the Laimanu Shevet Yosef Ela Ke'echad. When Mashiach comes, they're going to be Shevet Yosef is going to be one.
Why?
I don't know. That's what Tosfos says.
So you say, if Moshiach comes, what?
Menashe and Ephraim merge back into one.
So would Tefillin have 13 men at that time?
Okay, we're going to come back to this one. Says the Meshech Chachma, what word does Yaakov Avinu say to Yosef about his two sons Ephraim and Menashe? He says, Ve'ata shnei banecha anoidum l'cha be'eretz Mitzrayim lihem Ephraim and Menashe keruven v'shemeli. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Menashe, keruven v'shemeli. Why? And now? Because Yaakov knew Tosfos. Yaakov knew that when Mashiach comes, the Bnei Yosef are going to be one Shevet, Ephraim and Menashe are going to be one. So he says, now Ephraim and Menashe, Keruven v'Shimon Yoli. But Allah said, when Mashiach comes, they're going to be one. Says the Meshech Chachma. Perish, look in the second line. Ulam, Ephraim and Menashe ke'eis, Ephraim and Menashe now, Hainu b'zman hazeh. Yiu Keruven v'Shimon. Ava b'baya goyel ha'achron. You la'achadim, they're going to be one. K'ma shepirsha Rashi v'Tosfos and Baba Basra. So let's end where we started. We started by saying that the Torah writes we should have 12 stitches in the Tefillin. And b'di'evet, if you have 14, it's also good. If you have 10, it's also good. What's the Indian of the Shevatim and Dafka in the Tefillin? The purpose of Tefillin is what? When Yaakov Avinu was on his deathbed and he's surrounded by his Shevatim, he's surrounded by his sons, he says he was worried. Chas v'shalom, the Gemara in Pesachim, I forgot to put the Maramaka, the name. Pesachim Nun Vav says, Yaakov Avinu had all of his children surrounding him, and Yaakov Avinu thought, Shema yesh pagam b'mishpachta. What does that mean? He has so many different children, they have so different avenues of serving Hashem. This one has Gvuras Ha'ari, this one is like the snake, this one, Shema chas v'shalom, they're not worshiping the same Yichud Hashem. So they said, don't worry, Shema Yisrael. Listen, Yaakov Avinu. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We all serve one Hashem. So the 12 Shvatim, the Achdus of the 12 Shvatim, represent Yichud Hashem. That even though they're different Shvatim and different types of Yidden, but we all serve one God, that demonstrates Yichud Hashem. That's the whole tachas of Tefillin. The purpose of Tefillin is Yichud Hashem. In our Tefillin we have Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad. In God's Tefillin it says what? Mi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. The purpose of Tefillin is the achdus of the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's why perhaps the Torah says, what should it have in the Tefillin? The 12 stitches that represent the Shiftei Ka. The Shiftei Ka are the Semel, they're the Yesod of Achdus Hashem. Bye, have a good day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.